Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the maneuvers, reward tanks, the auction, how do they work, and which tanks I think personally are the best. So we're going to start off with the auction. So how does the auction work? Well, essentially, if you played the event and you earned a minimum, and it has to be a minimum, of 1,000 fame points, you can participate in the auction. So what you do is you come through to the store, you come down to this limited time event rewards tab, you'll see this. You can then click on the maneuvers auction. What you'll do is you'll proceed through to here. So bidding is available from the 20th of November at 4 a.m. UK time, 5 a.m. CET, so European time. And essentially what you do is you place a bid using bonds of how much you think the amount, so the lowest amount, a token or an auction token is going to go for. It's important to note, you don't place a bid on a tank, you place a bid on one of these big shiny silver things in which you then redeem a tank from. So basically, you put a bet on, you say, I don't know, you think the minimum price is going to be 35,250 bonds. You place a bid for 35,750 bonds to make sure you're over that amount. You win, yippee, you'll get one of these tokens at the end of the auction. You then redeem it for a tank. That's how that works. So the other angle of how you get a reward tank, which isn't through the auction, is going to be through the maneuvers shop. Sorry, I'm a little bit ill at the minute. So, if you were finished in the top 9,000, so you finished in the, 9,100, because we've got an extra 100 tanks and fame points, you will have enough fame points in order to redeem a tank. So you come through, once again, to the store, the limited time event rewards, you click on maneuvers where it says here, and essentially what you do is you will then pick the tank that you want. So you'll see here it says tier 10 vehicles, you pick the tank that you want to redeem, and that's it. You spend your fame points on that. That is essentially how you get a tank using your fame points. So there's 6 tanks, there's some better than others, some significantly worse than others. Obviously, this time around, we have a new tank, which is the ST-62 version 2. A Soviet Tier 10 reverse auto-loader medium tank. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you what I think is the best option for randoms, so the random queue, and then what I think is going to be the best option for competitive, but I will mention all the tanks and give my thoughts on them. So, what do I think the best option for randoms is going to be? And this may come as no surprise. I think it's going to be the VK7201K. Alpha is king in today's meta. Yes, it's very slow. And yes, games are quick and are only going to probably become quicker. But the VK7201K fits the bill as to where Alpha is king, penetration is king. The VK is an absolutely simply beautiful tank. German super heavy. We've got 750 alpha, base penetration of 246, gold penetration of 350. It's absolutely beautiful, 350 heat. Your DPM isn't the highest. You do bear that in mind. 2.3k is not incredible, but as I said, alpha is king. You deliver all of your alpha. All of your DPM in, less shots. So 3 shots, you basically deliver all your DPM in. It's got high hit points, 2,600 base, hardening, you pick it out to 2,800. It's just a good tank. And if you do run a turbo on it, you can pick it up to just less than 40. So it isn't actually that slow. But it is one of the slower ones. So that's the VK7201K, which, in my opinion, I think is the best tank for random. So the best available tank for the random queue. So, what do I think is going to be the best tank for the competitive queue? What do I mean by competitive, first of all? So, I'm talking maneuvers, I'm talking the gold global map, any potential return of a 15v15 clan wars. That's basically what I'm talking here. Obviously, reward tanks can't be used in Onslaught, so that isn't included in this. I think it's the 907. And there will be some people which may disagree with me here. The 907 is an old, reliable classic in terms of the competitive meta. It has and continues to be power crapped. Do not get me wrong. Its armor is no longer as effective as it used to be, with more increased and higher penetration tanks that you will fight against it in. Its gun and its alpha is just lacking nowadays, but for maneuvers, it has what you need. It has a decent HP pool, semi-reliable armor, good DPM, decent penetration. So the 907 is pretty meta in terms of the competitive scene. Don't get me wrong, there are better tech tree tanks than a 907 nowadays. For example, the K91, the Vickers, obviously that is a reward, but not obviously for a Clan Wars. There are better tanks than the 907 now, but from this list of 6, I think the 907 is still the best competitively. So, let's mention the other tanks. So, we'll start off with the T95 E6, so the E6, the tumor tank, as some people call it, American medium. This tank's pretty good. Once again, continues to be actively power crept, but it has incredible DPM, is essentially what it has. Incredible DPM. It's relatively quick. Yeah, that's basically its party trick. It has a horrendous weak point that is almost the size of its turret, so impossible to hide and will be penned very easily. But its party trick is essentially decent heat penetration of 340 and really ridiculous DPM. 400 alpha, 7.5 rounds a minute, 3.1k base DPM. That is essentially the E6. It's a fun tank to play, but once again, hard to make it work. High power, high skill level, very much power crept. That's the E6. We've got the M60. The M60 is available for bonds. I would not willingly and would not encourage anyone to spend 2 weeks of their life, or 10 days, a week, however long it takes you to get enough fame points to get a tank, to just get the M60. Just save up your bonds and buy it for bonds from the bond store for 12,000 bonds. The M60 is okay. It's a decent medium tank. It's semi-competitively meta. Its gun is okay. It's just meh. Essentially, that's what I'm saying here. But I would not recommend you spend 2 weeks with some people just to get an M60. Go get it for bonds. So I've already told you about the VK. Then we've got the 116F3, which is the most recent new addition to the reward tank pool from Maneuvers. The 116 is interesting. I think it gets unfairly criticised to an extent. It has a lot of flaws. Its armor's pretty weak. It has absolutely abysmal DPM. Its gun handling is pretty shit. It's not very quick. It does get a lot of hate. But having played the tank, it isn't actually as bad as it seems, and people do kind of sleep on it in the game and kind of ignore you, which does allow you to begin to use this tank's absolutely abysmal base DPM of 2,000. And it is one of those tanks that, if it's ignored and it's allowed to do its full clip and then reload, it is pretty okay. But it does just suffer from the issue of having abysmal gun handling. Armor's not very reliable. It just has a few issues, essentially. It's okay. Once again, a very high skill cap to make it work effectively. I wouldn't recommend it for the average player, essentially. But the final tank I'm going to talk about is the brand new one, the ST62 version 2. This tank is the one I'm personally going to be picking up. I have the other 3. The M60, I don't have the M60, but I can buy it for bonds, as I said. The E6 I have, just not recovered. The VK I have, just not recovered. The ST62 version 2 is going to be the brand new tank for me. I'm very much looking forward to getting it. It's a tank that matches my playstyle personally. I'm a medium tank player at heart. But the ST62 I have a whole video on. I'll pop it in a card in the top right hand corner now. It'll also be at the end of this video in the cards. Just give it a click on. It'll also be down in the description. So if you want a full run through of what the ST62 is looking like, that. But essentially, it's an auto reloader, same gun mechanic as the IS-3A, if any of you know that, the tier 8 Soviet heavy tank. It's got decent DPM, it's got 3 rounds. Essentially, you play it, you clip out, you then fire cyclically off that final shell, basically. So you then fire cyclically for a 7.7 second base reload, 320 alpha. It's okay. Its penetration is pretty nice. It has 330 heat. That's pretty good. It has a decent HP pool. Its armor, its turret armor is pretty trolled, kind of similar turret to the 140, just slightly thicker, and a much smaller cupola. However, its hull is this tank's issue. It's pretty trolled and not very reliable. This tank's going to be an interesting one to pick up. I would say, if this is your first time, your second time, or your third time getting a tank, I maybe wouldn't pick it. The ones I'd pick, and in order, the way that I would pick it would be Object 907, VK7201K, then maybe the ST62 or the T95E6. Up to you. But that's the way, personally, me as a competitive player who plays pretty much every maneuvers event, that's the way I'd pick the tank. So if, for example, this is your first time picking, pick the 907. Your second time, you've already got the 907, take the VK. Your third time, then that's when you start to get the choice of taking one of the other 4, or maybe the other 3. So that's my thoughts on the tanks. That's how the auction works. That's how purchasing a tank works. I hope that helped. If you do have any questions, pop it down in the comments. I've tried to get this video out as quickly as I can for you. I'm kind of suffering a bit at the minute. I've come down with man flu, so kind of a little bit suffering, but I've tried to get it out for you. I'm sorry if I sound terrible in this video. But if you did like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.